Alright, third video this morning. Have a little problem with my camera stand there. Anyway, just leave this wool underwear top on. Take all that other stuff off. Just way too hot, burning up. Have a heat stroke, you know. So anyway, I was coming back at you with this list of wool products and so forth. For your layers, okay, for your layering systems. Just my recommendations, okay. These are my recommendations. I have a lot of first-hand experience with many of these products, not all of them, but many of them. If I don't, then it's generally from people that I know that do, okay, or have known in the past. But anyways, it's all stuff for you to consider for your cold weather kit. I'm going to go ahead and move the camera. We're going to try to do this as painlessly as possible, and then I'm going to focus on the list. Alright. We'll just scoot on over here and get you the list. And we will talk about this list. Okay? We'll talk about this list. Just want to remind you guys, of course, not an ad. I'm just trying to pass things on to people. I do have those two Irish Aran sweaters. Okay? I have a green one and an oatmeal looking colored one that somebody had got me as a Christmas present. They didn't ask the size they guessed, and they're too large, so they're extra large. One would cost you $67 plus shipping. That's the green one that's kind of like a teal color, and then the oatmeal colored one was $82, and then that would just cost you $82 plus shipping. So I'm not making anything off of that. That's just whatever it costs them, okay, and then whatever it costs for me to ship to you. So those are still available. I'm only going to have those available for a little while, I guess, and then I'm probably going to have them send them back, which is another expense, and which I don't want them to incur, but it is what it is, right? Anyway, so okay, let's get onto this list here. So basically, the subject is wool. We have talked about wool ad nauseum, but I never get enough talking about wool personally, because it is the original. It is one of the originals. That and furs, okay? Those are your original performance outerwear, right? So when we talk about wool coats, as you saw, I have a vintage Woolrich Mackinac cruiser coat, right? And it is heavy. I don't even know how many ounces per square yard they are, but I know it's very thick Mackinac wool. Probably don't even need a double. I never, you know, I've never had anything doubled up like that before in a garment. But you know, these Filson, some of them, they got this double Mackinac cruiser, and I thought, well, you know, I like a lot of wool. I like thick, you know, and I thought, well, I'd like to try that. But then I found out that they, you know, made their wool thinner and blah blah blah, right? So it's like you know, it's like they forgot their roots, you know. It's the heavy stuff that keeps you warm. I'm not interested in the fashion show. I'm interested in keeping warm out in, you know, the boondocks, right out in the woods, out in the forest. And to me, my clothing is my first survival shelter. It always has been. You know, anything else like a sleeping bag or a tent, that is like an extended bit to my survival shelter. Your first shelter is always what you're wearing. And that's why it's so important that you build it the correct way. So, I discussed mesh underwear the other day. I know I'm not wearing mesh underwear right now, but I don't really have any need for it. If I were on some kind of a wilderness expedition or a polar expedition, or a military expedition, so if some of you guys in the military out there, if you're going for cold weather training, definitely get yourself the mesh underwear before you go, okay? My recommendation personally, from my past experience, is the very top of the ladder is Brynje of Norway, okay? So I got it spelled out right there, B-R-Y-N-J-E, okay? They're out of Norway. Now I have not used, but I know about mesh underwear from Wiggy's. Okay, and I have a Wiggy's Antarctic sleeping bag, which I am extremely pleased with. And it's made here in the USA. So you may have a look at them too. But I can't put 100% stamp of approval on it because I've never worn their product. Okay, but that's something to look at. But you start out, your base layer, wool, you know, 70% or greater wool is what I always recommend. Okay, anything less than 70 and the performance is just dropping off too much. You know, you got to have that wool content. Alright, now your next layer obviously is your trousers and your mid layer. Okay, so in your trousers, I'm wearing wool trousers that are 83 years old. They're Swedish military issue. I've worn them for decades. There are no holes, rips, or anything in them. I've worn them so much in brutal cold weather. Brutal. And I've always worn them over my long underwear. And I've never had an issue. And we talked about this before with cold feet. You know, you have to insulate your legs as well as your feet, okay, in order to have warm feet, because it's your arteries are taking the heat to the feet. Heat to the feet, right? Arteries are taking your heat from the core to the feet. So you have to have trousers that are going to insulate your thighs and your upper legs, okay? And then, of course, right now I'm wearing 100% wool socks, okay? And in my mucklucks, I wear my wool socks, and then I have a set of Wiggy's Lamilite socks. Oh, I just erased that right there, that E. But my socks, I always recommend 70 to 100% wool. That's what you got to go with. Don't go with that polypro crap. Do not do that. Go with wool. I know Wiggy doesn't like wool, but I don't care, because I've been out there over and over and over in extreme cold, and the thing is to wick the moisture from your feet out. And what will happen is if you are wearing wool socks and you are wearing wool trousers, the wool trousers will wick the moisture from the socks. So the socks will wick the moisture from your feet, and then the wool trousers will wick the moisture from the socks. And that wicks out the top of your boots and then evaporates. So this is what I'm talking about here. Everybody says, well, I always have wet feet and they're cold when I have wool socks. It doesn't really do what you say. You know, this I'm talking about. not me personally, but what everybody else has talked about wool socks for the last 100 years, that wool socks wick away the moisture from your feet, and they do. But the problem is a lot of guys don't get that moisture out of the socks, and it stays there, and your feet will get chilled. Okay, so you have to get that moisture out of the socks while you're wearing them, and the way you do that is you wear wool trousers tucked into your boots that are actually touching your socks, and that will wick the moisture out of the socks, and it draws it up the trouser leg out of the boot, and then it evaporates. Okay, this is a constant process. It's constant. So this is what you got to remember. Okay, so we want to talk about our mid layers. Mid layers should always be wool knits. Okay, this is a single wool knit mid layer. Okay, and then in extreme cold, I've got a double. I've got several of these double setups. Okay, why wool knits? Because a sweater or jumper draws that moisture. So you're wearing your mesh underwear, the moisture comes out as a vapor from your body, goes through the mesh underwear, and is absorbed by your knits that you're wearing as a mid layer. Okay, goes into your wool knits. The wool draws it in. It says, come on in. So your wool knits draws that moisture vapor in, and then it migrates through because it's porous. Okay, this is what you do not want a PTFE on the top. On the, you want to have porous layers. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. PTFE, everybody would put that on the outside of your mid layer. Do not do that. Matter of fact, there's very few instances where I will have a PTFE layer on, and it's going to be like a super wet condition where it's a downpour. Okay, and that's it. Okay, and we've talked about that before. So your mid layers are always going to be wool knits, not going to be fleece. Take that fleece and toss it. Take it and toss it. Use it for wearing around town if you want to go into the bookstore or whatnot, but do not wear it into the forest or on an expedition. And you military guys, do not wear it into the field. Get yourself some nice heavyweight wool sweaters or jumpers, and make you up at least one double. Okay, at least one double. Okay, and then have a few singles. Okay, and have that stuff for your for when you go out on your field training exercises, or if you're going to war. Pack accordingly. Right now, 15 minutes is up. We'll come back in another one. We'll start off fresh. See you there.